Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the school committee meeting of Monday, March 11th, 2019. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. At this time, the Attleboro School Committee will convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A2 and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with the union and non-union personnel and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee. The committee will return to open meeting after executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second?
Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Ms. Scales? Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
All right, the school committee will go into executive session. at 7 o'clock, and we will start our agenda tonight with our spotlight event. And to make introductions, I'll turn it over to the superintendent, Mrs. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman Withers. I'd like to invite up Mr. Rooney and Ms. Montagno. Hand it over to you, Bill.
Okay. Thank you very much for having us tonight. We always enjoy being able to showcase and spotlight all the wonderful things that take place at the high school. And obviously, our career and technical education programs are ones that we're extremely proud of. I'm grateful to Ms. Montagno for her leadership, the outstanding teachers that we have in the department that provide such a relevant experience for these students. And, you know, in terms of our mission and vision to engage, challenge, and inspire, I can't think of a better way to demonstrate to you how that takes place in our CTE labs on a daily basis. So thank you again for allowing us to be here, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Montagno.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to echo the sentiment that I do thank you for having us tonight. And I'll be brief because I brought a crew with me tonight, and they really deserve the spotlight. So, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't just touch upon where we're at with our new program development, which is in its infancy. However, there is work being done. So we are assembling. What I'm kind of doing is laying the foundation for the eventual Chapter 74 application process, which all of the steps that are required for that process are necessary to get a program off the ground. So it's quite natural, the process that we're going through. So starting with assembling program advisory committees, because those are the real experts that we rely on, and establishing relationships with employer partners, post-secondary institutions, looking at lab spaces that exist in those institutions, going out to other regional schools to look at what those labs look like, and exploring timelines that will allow us to try to establish some of the programs before we move. And so the easiest programs to create spaces for in our existing building would be HVAC and robotics. So I'm exploring that end of things. I'm not going to announce a timeline because it's very much up in the air according to being able to acquire equipment, how much I can pay for through grants, and whether or not we really truly can augment spaces to be able to run those programs before we move. I'm going to try my best to get those two programs off the ground before we move, and then maybe the year before we move, we potentially could do something with dental assisting. Cosmetology is the most difficult one because the regulations really don't allow us to do much called cosmetology without an actual space. So that's where we are in that process. Does anybody have any questions surrounding that? All right. So I invited our new welding teacher tonight, Dan Brill, on. He's doing some fabulous things to get welding off the ground. And he's truly such a well-rounded individual that he's bringing so much to welding, which, you think of some of the trades as just driven by industry standards, which they need to be. However, Dan is really looking at ways to engage the kids through more creative, open-ended projects that require problem solving, and at the same time, he's delivering those technical skills in industry standards. So I'd like to invite Dan up for you to meet him.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Okay, so now addressing the non-traditional by gender gap. This is something that's very important to me because traditionally the shops have had certain connotations which we're trying to really work through. So a recent visit to one of the trade schools which I went to, they have a welding shop and a metal shop that's 40% female, which is my goal really. It's to create this idea of this go-get-em attitude and really fill those job openings. Right now, we're about 290,000 people of retirement age in the welding industry alone. So we're really looking to get everybody out there. So I'm excited about that. We're also offering a lot of artistic innovation to the program versus, as Ms. Montagano said, the standards of welding. Welding in a straight line. Is the weld good? There are different other factors that fall into play with welding quality. However, we do want to offer artistic innovation as well. I think that kind of bridges the gap of fun. Welding is fun. Let's get into a career that speaks fun and excitement. While they're in there and we baited them with that hook, then we deliver them the credentials that they need to get AWS certified, and at least get them as close to certification as we possibly can. So those are my goals. The other thing we're going to look into is destructive and non-destructive testing, which is really judging the quality of welds. Non-destructive testing is a career that's growing at an astronomical rate, and what that's pertaining to is basically any plane that goes in the air, any train that goes on the track, any building that gets erected is subject to scrutinized testing of each individual inch of weld. So there's different ways of doing that: UV dyes, sonograph, magnetic testing. So we're kind of going to try to branch into that field as well to kind of bring about the new technology for the 21st. So
Thank you.
I have a lot of goals and aspirations for this, and it's kind of.
And just to close, I would congratulate Dan on a successful first 2/3 of this year. And
Thank you very much.
in the early stages of us looking at our enrollment for next year, his level 1 is almost fully enrolled. So I just want to congratulate him on
Thank you very much.
on a great year.
He's been a workhorse. He really has.
Yep.
As soon as we were able to bring him on, excuse me, as soon as we were able to bring him on board, he wanted to get into the shop and start to remake what welding looks like at Attleboro High School. So we're very proud.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
And you might remember him from the newspaper that he saved the day and welded Raycon's
yes.
Grammy back together.
That's right. How could I forget?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Domenici, do you have a question?
Thank you, everybody.
Just a quick one for you, and welcome, and
you.
congratulations on your success so far. You had mentioned a goal of bridging the gender gap, I should say. Where are you now? Like, what does the current enrollment look like?
From what I understand, well, because I'm doing the exploratory right now, I do have 2 or 3 ladies that have joined the program. So I'm very excited about that for my first shout out.
Well, thank you.
Mrs. Sawyer?
I just want to say that the last Blue Pride night, I came with my daughter and a couple of her friends, and they were really intrigued by the welding program. You put on a very good show.
Thank you. and that is actually one of my students who's going for occupational proficiency this coming year, who was doing the welding tours. So.
Yeah.
We did try to give students who, since we did have to dismantle the program, we've tried to give students who were left without a program the opportunity to come back and earn a certificate of occupational proficiency with Dan sort of independently or wherever they can fit it into their schedule. So there's at least one student that's
Yep.
taking advantage
Yes.
of that. So it's nice to be able to provide that for that student.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Any more questions? Looking forward to working for you.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
So every year, the Massachusetts Association of Vocational Administrators and the Massachusetts Vocational Association host a big event in April where they honor outstanding vocational students from across the state. All comprehensive and regional students can nominate a student. And that student should personify leadership qualities, technical competence, and excellence in academics and attendance. So it is my pleasure to introduce Jonathan Aress, a culinary arts senior, who is our outstanding vocational student for this year. So.
Thank you all for having me here today. It's really a pleasure for me to be a guest here to speak with all of you. Like Ms. Montagno said, my name's Jonathan Aress, and I was chosen as the, I'm in the culinary arts program. I'm a senior, and I've been chosen as Attleboro High's outstanding vocational technical student. It's a great honor that I get to bear, and it's not just an honor for me. I get to bear it not just for me, but I get to bear it for my CTE culinary. I get to bear it for all the CTE programs, because we only choose one student a year. I get to like pretty much emulate what the standard of an AHS student should be. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but what I'm trying to say is like, excuse me, I cannot possibly earn this award without the help of guidance of my mentors in the culinary program, Chef Kevin DeShanes, Michaela Lynch, and Chef Dean Shea. And of course the encouragement from Ms. Montagno and Principal Roney. And I think earning this award doesn't really make me, I don't think for a second that it makes me better than any of my peers. I don't think that I have any advantage. I certainly didn't earn this award through talent. I think that I feel that I've earned this award through the actions that I've done. And if I ever get to be a representative for the culinary arts program, it'd be my pleasure, because this program has pushed me to action. So not just in school, but outside of school, it's pushed me to I'm currently on my second job, and I've already been accepted to my top college at Johnson & Wales University with a good scholarship, and it's pretty much pushed me to line a future up for myself. So I am very grateful for the opportunity to bear that award. I'm grateful to all of you for, to all of you and the staff at Attleboro High for the support that continually goes into the CT programs. I know it's not necessarily it can be a bit expensive at times with a few CTs, but I'm just grateful that every year there's more and more consideration and more heartfelt thought and effort put into supporting our CTEs, and I feel like even though I won't be here, I feel like with the new school, I feel that you guys have pretty great programs ahead of you. So thank you again.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Jonathan. Mrs. Gales?
I just want to say, this really doesn't surprise me, because you've spoken before us before, and you always speak so eloquently, and your passion is very evident to us. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So true.
Dennis?
Yep.
And to Mrs. Scales' point, the last time you were here, I think you mentioned that you were able to take advantage of courses at Johnson & Wales through dual enrollment, correct?
I plan to take dual enrollment courses. Unfortunately, I haven't done that this year.
Okay.
But I've spoken with a lot of representatives from the school. I know a few of them personally, and again, like I said, so I've taken tours on campus. I'm actually going there in a few weeks again for an Acceptance Students Day, nice banquet dinner. So I feel like not just getting into the college, but I feel like I have a nice chance of like exploring and expanding my my education to its fullest potential at JRA.
And you mentioned you're on your second job since you got
Yeah.
into the CTE program.
Mhm.
Can you talk about some of the skills you learned in the classroom that have helped you either with the job search or helped you get more acclimated to your position more quickly?
Of course. So culinary is a bit of a unique CTE. It's a very high intensity, high pressure class, and I feel like right off the bat it's not for everybody. but I feel like it is the right place for me because it's, like I said, it's pushed me to action. So one of the skills that we learned in our first year is called mise en place. Now that's French for having everything in its place. So when you're working in a restaurant, that might mean like getting all the utensils ready, all the knives, all the chopping boards, everything put in its place, and getting ready for the lunch rush or the dinner rush. But it goes far beyond that. It also goes to knowing which staff or which cook members are going to be cooking what, knowing how the front of the house is going to work. Pretty much it expands not just to working in the kitchen, but having everything in your life, everything that you need to plan ahead, everything set in its place. So having, again, mise en place, it's helped me to organize what schools I wanted to go to, and for jobs, it's helped me to organize a pretty positive resume. It's definitely greatly improved my customer service and customer relationships because my first job was at Sturdy Hospital, so I was able to make a good relationship with a lot of patients and making good relationship with a lot of patients, learn a lot of about diplomacy with my other coworkers there. So I feel that I've learned quite a lot of techniques from culinary that apply to everyday life.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Domenici?
So Jonathan, I would say one of my first meetings as a school committee member last year was late in the year when I came on, was the Spotlight. And I do remember you then, and I was impressed then, and I continue to be impressed now. I don't think it's a surprise that you're here today to receive this award and all the accolades that go with it. And you are truly an embodiment of, what I think the CTE program should be at Attleboro High School. My nephew went to Johnson & Wales, and he's doing great things up in Boston now. It's a great school, and it's also around the corner. So though you may not necessarily be a student in the new building that comes in, I really do hope you get to come back and help continue to show folks that where their path can go.
Of course. Again, it'd be my pleasure to represent any culinary program or the CT program, and I definitely want to see the new school when it builds up. It's really, I really look forward to it. So thank you again for that.
Mr. Larson?
I've seen you in action in culinary. Don't underestimate your ability. I know the people down there have talked very highly of you, so you're going to enjoy Johnson & Wales, and it's going to challenge you, but you're going to get a lot out of it.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you again for your time.
Congratulations.
Thanks, John. So I'm sneaking something in that's not on a slide. It's okay, you could go to that. I was able to secure a spot for an engineering student tonight, Matthew Gribb, and Ms. McInnes is here to support him, but I'd like to invite Matt up to speak about his engineering experience.
I'd like to thank everyone for giving me the privilege to even just have a little speech tonight. It was kind of an honor just to have you guys select me or to come down to basically talk about 21st century learning and skills and how it pertains to engineering, projects I've done in engineering, and how it's going to affect me in the future. So I'm basically, just to make this easy on myself, I'm just going to kind of water it down to a specific project because it was a really intense and very open project that you basically had to take everything you've learned in the class so far and put it into one project. And I was in a group of 3, and I think Ms. McInnes will attest that the group I was in, she was definitely not happy with. 2 of my best friends, and so one of the first obstacles we had to get over was our collaboration, because since we've all known each other since middle school and freshman year, we kind of had a tendency to goof off a little bit in class, not gonna lie. And so being friends with them and trying to work at the same time, we had to really separate between when we're having fun and when we need to get serious. And that was one of the first things we needed to do, because it was again a really intense project that we had to get done in not that much time. And what that project was we had to create the guidelines was it had to be something that used hydraulics and pneumatics through the power of air and water. So what we ended up coming up with was like a claw machine that you would see in any arcade that you can like move around and pick up prizes. And while most people were just going with like 1 or 2 motions, we were really trying to go big on it. We had a motion going up, down, left, right, forward, back, opening and closing of the claw. So we had in total 6 motions that we had to do all in one project. And that was a lot to take on. And one of the big things we had to learn through that was critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability. Because the beginning drawings that we first had versus what we had as the final project were night and day. We would come up with something, we'd start working on it, and then as we got further along in the design process, we began to realize that what we had just wasn't going to work. And then on the fly, we had to come up with something new and install it and try and trial and error it and make sure that worked. So that was a major thing that we needed to do, especially towards SolidWorks and construction, because SolidWorks, we can just kind of plug stuff in and kind of make up physics in order for have it to work in the computer. But if you're in real life, you can't just make things up. You have to actually have it work within the rules of what's happening. So that was another thing, because then we had our SolidWorks thing. But once we started constructing it in real life, there were many things that we actually overlooked that were just so minute. Like, for example, the dowels we were using, they weren't exactly straight. So when the whole mechanism would slide, there would be enough friction buildup that it would stop and it wouldn't be able to move. And in SolidWorks, that wasn't a problem because you can just draw a straight line. But I didn't have a straight enough dowel at that point. So what we ended up having to do was create a little platform and have the entire system be able to roll over on itself in order to create that straight line as it's going. And then, especially, this is the final point I want to touch up upon, is grit and just persistence. The final 3 nights was probably the longest 3 nights of my life. We left, our project was due Monday morning. We left school Friday afternoon with a frame, and that was about it. It was Friday night, Saturday day, Sunday night of just straight up nonstop work. We would text each other, we would figure out when we were available, when we can come over, and when we can just focus. And at that point, all we were focusing on was making sure we can get it to work. And I can remember many late night gas station runs, going to the convenience store and just stocking up on energy drinks, just trying to, we would find something, we would work on it, we'd build it. We'd test it, it didn't work. We'd redesign it, test it, didn't work, redesign it until it finally worked. And we did this about 7 or 8 times for every single component in this project, from the linkages that made the arm go up and down, to the hydraulic lines that moved the entire system, to constructing the SolidWorks claws that actually opened and closed it, to rethinking about what materials to even use for that claw once we needed to actually make it close, because half the materials that we ended up trying to use just weren't strong enough to begin to try what we were trying to make it do. So we had to do all these things just on the fly and completely starting almost from the ground up again as we were going to building, because one of the biggest lessons I learned in that project was there is a major difference between engineering and building. And that's what I really, really took from that project, was that it's one thing to be able to plug in things on a computer system and have it look nice, but the key to a really good engineer is to being able to see what problems there are and being able to fix them as you're going. And that is one of the things that I took from that project, and what I'm really proud with myself with how I managed to handle it and be able to come out with, in my opinion, one of the best projects I've ever had.
Mr. Larson?
What you're gonna find as you continue the path that you're on is, as an engineer with your SolidWorks and as your friend behind you with his welding, you're gonna have to learn each other's tolerances. Because there's things that you can do on a computer screen in SolidWorks that they can't do in a weld shop. And so you need to be able to learn each other's pluses and minuses, because what you went through that weekend is the pluses and minuses.
Oh yeah.
Because you went from being the engineer on SolidWorks to the gentleman who has to try to put it together. And sometimes those 2 people can be best friends. Sometimes they won't talk to each other. But they'll be friends after.
Yeah.
But, so there's a collaboration between those 2 entities, and you found that on that weekend by the sounds of it, so.
Oh, yes, I did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And last but not least, I wanted to bring a few Skills USA members in tonight. So we have 3 great advisors, Karen Pereira, Yuritsa Julian, and Michaela Lynch, who have kind of rebooted our Skills USA Club. And I have heard some testimonials myself, and Mr. Rooney has, from the kids this year, and really heartwarming experiences that they're having this year. So without further ado, I'd like to, should we just stand? Yeah, you guys can.
I'm Michaela Lynch. I'm one of the culinary arts students. Not students.
Warmer.
Back in the day. Excuse me. I'm one of the culinary arts teachers here at the high school, and also an advisor for Skills USA. This year we had set a goal to recruit a bigger amount of membership. We were able to do that. We have 5 CTEs that represent our membership, and our goal next year is to bring that to all 12. We would like to have 12 CTEs represented. Tonight we brought Shelby Cook, Erica Hogan, Zachary Droplet, Drole, and Jonathan Arrest. Shelby is our secretary, and Jonathan is our president, and they're going to talk about their experience this year and how great it's been.
All right. Well, again, it's I'm really grateful to our advisors, Chef Nunez, Chef Lynch, and Mrs. Julian and Ms. Pereira too. I've been in Skills USA since sophomore year, and this has definitely been the most eventful and the most fruitful year of my membership. The past 2 years, I will admit, the club hasn't really been living up to its potential, or really it hasn't really been helping itself out and making a case for itself. I feel like this year, each of our members have been much more active. We've participated in a lot of fundraising activities. So I was actually going to list off just a few things that we have managed to accomplish as our team. So being in Skills, I've been provided with a new desire to become the best in my vocation, an opportunity to push myself out of my comfort zone, the opportunity to learn how to network with strangers, and finally I was granted the opportunity to learn what it takes to be a leader and sacrifices that come with it. I was unmotivated to push myself, and I let myself think I'd done enough work already as a senior. However, when I was elected as president of my Skills USA chapter, I realized I not just have a responsibility to myself, but to everyone in the room. A few things we've accomplished as a team this year was to raise over $400 to contribute to our funding, donate a portion of our profits to charity, provide community service, make several appearances on our behalf of the club, such as this one, hosting our own table on Blue Pride Night, creating a website to establish our platform, and organizing a bake sale, creating calendars for funding again, and just in those small things that I've mentioned, that's a chance where we get to practice time management, public speaking, financial literacy, teamwork, leadership, and much more. So Skills USA, it's very much a student-led organization that without our team, we wouldn't really be able to do the things that we do. And again, I have to thank Mr. Rooney and Ms. Montagna because they've greatly pushed for our success in this field. So thank you for.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm Shelby, I'm the secretary. So my time in Skills USA has been adventurous to say the least. Meeting new people has broadened my view of our CTE programs. Serving as a chapter secretary has encouraged me to develop leadership skills, communication skills, and responsibility. Being able to attend Skills Leadership Conference as well as compete in districts has literally forced me to get out of the little box around my feet I like to call my "there's scary stuff outside this box." But I loved every minute of Skills USA, and I'm so grateful for the person it has helped me become. So one of the things Jonathan mentioned was that we've done fundraising, and that's kind of an understatement. So we did what's called canning, and it was in 22-degree weather, in the middle of January, and that was a time that I learned I need to wear 2 pairs of socks when it gets 20 degrees outside. But it was a lot of fun, and it really brought us together, and it was such an eye-opening experience to be able to tell the public about who we are and what we do, and so I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that Skills USA has blessed me with.
I'm Erica Hogan, and I'm a junior in the Culinary Arts program. This year is my first year being a part of Skills USA, and I've already been engaged in many activities and events. In November, I participated in my first Skills USA event, which was Fall State Leadership, and I didn't realize how big of a program it was until I walked into the conference room and saw hundreds of other CTE students that were involved. This conference is where I really got my understanding of how big of a community it was. It's a community where any CTE student can feel safe and comfortable with sharing their ideas and opinions. It's where CTE students express their love and passion for what they do, and it's a place where we get to show off our trade. Skills USA also teaches us to be confident and safe workers. During Fall State Leadership, I was reminded of the importance of community. I was part of the community service track where we went to the local YMCA and helped them build picnic tables and painted them. And after building, we did a group activity that showed us that by working together, we got the job done quick and efficiently. Skills USA is a accepting place where we are free to share our opinions and hear others as well. It teaches us how to be independent and also how to work with new people. It pushes us out of our comfort zone and encourages us to try new things. This is what I love about Skills USA.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zachary Jolette, and I'm a senior in the plumbing program here at AHS. The things that Skills USA taught me is when we walked into districts, 2 weeks ago or so, that there are a lot more people in the trades than here at the school, which when you're in the CTE program here, you don't see many people. You see your 20 or so fellow students in your trade that you all enjoy. Seeing that there's about 50 or so in each trade when we went to our district competition made me realize that this is a very big thing that we all enjoyed. It also showed me that I probably should have started this 2 years ago, seeing that I'm a senior and I graduate soon. Also, following on what everybody else said, it was a good time. You learned a lot of things from different people that you wouldn't know based on what you learned here, because there's always usually a different way to do things.
We are very proud of our students. Back in November, we were able to take 9 out of the 16 members to the state competition, and we brought back 16 medals within the competition that they participated in, including community service and other things that they learned in terms of the workplace and technical and personal skills. So we're very proud of you members, and hopefully we get to work with other schools that are also comprehensive on how to improve membership and make sure that we keep the students all the way from 9th grade to 12th grade. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our Student Advisory Council and Around Attleboro update, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Larson.
Okay, so at the elementary schools, on March 20th, Thatcher is going to have a fun run pep rally, and then Studley on March 22nd will have a talent show, and Willett will have a bingo night on March 29th. At the middle schools, the second trimester is ending on March 12th, and then Coelho will have a student-faculty basketball game on March 13th. So at the high school, we just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Attleboro Police Department for all of their support last week, just with everything that was going on. And then we wanted to announce that the Polar Plunge is March 16th, and that's open to the public, so anyone can come and watch us jump into freezing cold water. It's really fun. So I definitely encourage you all to come. And then on a not so fun note, exams begin on March 19th. And then the third trimester will begin March 25th, so there's like a week or so in between those. And then on March 21st, the National Honor Society and the National Technical Honor Society will have their induction ceremony. And then Blue Steam Ahead is tomorrow. It's from 6 to 8 here at the high school. It's held at the high school, but elementary, middle, and high school will all be represented, and so will all of the subjects. And again, it's open to the public. It's really great. I enjoy it, so. And then for our SAC update, we actually just met with Mr. Rooney this morning, and we're just going to kind of work with administration. High schoolers aren't the best drivers in the world, but the snowbanks and everything in the parking lot, it just creates so much chaos. So we're trying to find a way to maybe redirect traffic or find some sort of solution just to help alleviate that in any way possible, if anyone has any ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Larson.
Sorry.
Mr. Geddes, your question?
Are you, the Polar Plunge is a fundraiser, correct?
Yes.
Are you guys still collecting money, and how can folks donate?
Yep, so it's all online. If you go to, so it's a fundraiser for Special Olympics, so if you go to the Special Olympics webpage, just like specialolympics.com, there, it's like all over the front page of it. So, yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we'll start our business agenda and start off with the superintendent's report. Mr. Sawyer?
Thank you, Chairman Withers. First, I'd like to speak again about the challenges that we faced as a district last week with the hoax about Attleboro High School. We have real concerns about how this event played out for us as a district and how we're going to perhaps have a better response moving forward. I feel that in many ways terrorism scored a victory last Thursday. As a district, this event was a major distraction to learning for a good week. And on Thursday, as reported in the paper, attendance at the high school was extremely low. So this is a real point of reflection, I think, not only for the administration, but for all of us. The first thing I would like to reiterate is how seriously we took this threat. This news came in Sunday evening, and we were working on this right into the wee hours, into Monday morning, and then when we got up Monday, all day Monday, until we got to a place where Attleboro police could tell us that it was their assessment that this wasn't a credible threat. That was our only focus until we were able to get that good news. Poor Miss Regan spent her Sunday night at the police station. So this was something that we jumped all over, and I can't say enough that it was something that was very important to us that we resolve as quickly as possible. I should also mention that we are very fortunate to have a strong relationship with the Attleboro Police Department. Our work together was productive, and it is because of that strong relationship that we knew that we had a partner who was taking this very seriously. They devoted countless man hours to this threat and this concern, and stayed with it past that assessment until they were actually able to track down the perpetrator in another country. I think that speaks really highly of their work and how much they share our concern about the well-being of our students. I will continue to reflect on why we struggled to convince people that the school would be safe on Thursday. Part of that analysis thus far, I think, is that we suffer a little bit from confirmation bias. We now live in a world in which many parents legitimately have fears about the threat of gun violence in schools. And so once you hear that that threat has been brought specifically to your community, I think it's hard to hear much past that message. So that's something that we really need to push through so that people could hear that, yes, there was a threat, but it was not credible. No matter how much we said that, I think just the fact that that threat was issued here was something that some people weren't ready to move past, at least not quickly. I also think we suffered from what's referred to as perfectionist fallacy. Some people, I think, were not going to be satisfied until we could point to a specific individual and say, that's the person who did it. That moment didn't come until, sadly, till Thursday morning, until, people had already made the decision not to come to school that day. But the police had told us as early as Monday that we didn't have to be worried about this. And they had good reason to say that. But, some people clung to the belief that unless we can point to an exact person and say, that's the person who did it and that's why we don't have to be worried, that somehow our ability to assess a threat as not being credible was hampered by that. That's not the case, and I think that if that's the standard we're going to hold ourselves to, we're going to be susceptible to another moment like this. I want to say what I've said in other places at other times. The fact of the matter is that there is no safer place than school for students. Children are more likely to be killed in their homes, are more likely to be abused in their homes. They're more likely to suffer a life-threatening accident coming to and from school or going to and from any of their activities than they are when they're with us at school. School is the safest place. And the irony is that given all the attention and the police support they received, there was probably no safer day to be at school than last Thursday. So safety is not the concern here. As we've talked about on multiple occasions, there's no such thing as perfect safety. No one can say that any one moment or any day or any one place is going to be perfectly safe. It doesn't exist. But we take great measures to ensure the safety of our students. And, statistically speaking, they have a better chance with us than not. And so we need to do a better job of preparing people for the fact that we now live in a world in which someone in another country, an ocean away, can disrupt all of that, and that we need to be better prepared to think through how we want to respond to that, because ultimately, what I'm most concerned about is the impact fear has on learning. You can't teach people who are scared, and whether or not the fear was credible or not, many of our students, not just at the high school, were afraid as a result of the events of last week. And that's a very, very real thing. I think we're going to have to continue to think through what we can do to better prepare ourselves so that this is not something that we have to accept, that we understand that people say things and that those careless acts should not get in the way of us living our lives. Because as I said at the start, terrorism kind of won, and that's not a trivial use of that term. If that individual had lived on this side of the Atlantic, they would have been charged with a terrorist threat. That's what we're dealing with here, and I think we have to do some real soul searching about what we're going to do the next time, because as I mentioned in my update to you on Friday, I don't have any reason to believe that this is the last time someone's going to say something dumb on the internet. So those are my thoughts at this moment.
I just wanted to echo the praise for the police department. I happened to be here all day on Wednesday. I didn't leave the building until about 2:30. And in addition to the regular resource officer, there were still 5 or 6 officers in the building, patrolling the building. Thursday, I happened to stop by for an event. I think it was around 5:30 or 6 p.m. And there was still a strong police presence in the building that time in the evening. So to say that they put in a strong number of man hours in addition to not just in terms of the federal and international investigation that went into this, just being here at the building and driving around that day. They weren't just in this building; they were in this complex. They were in this area. So thank you to Chief Hegney, Officer Today, and I saw Sergeant Hale here. So to all of the officers, thank you very much.
Okay. I have a couple other updates. As you know, mental health has been something that we've been very concerned about and are working on. And for an update on that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Regan.
Thank you. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to meet with a few folks from the area to start to plan a workshop for our families as well as staff training. I met with Anne-Marie Matulis. She's the director of the Bristol County Regional Coalition for Suicide Prevention, Jackie O'Brien, who is the coordinator of Greater Attleboro Area Suicide Prevention Coalition, Carrie Ballou from Fuller Hospital, Deb Ebert was available, and as well as Susan Levine. We, in that meeting, we finalized details for the grant that we're writing for mental health and awareness, and we began our conversation to plan those workshops for families and staff, and scheduled another meeting to be held later this week. To support them, I did want to share that there is a town hall discussion about suicide prevention coming up. It's Saturday, March 23rd from 6:30 to 9 p.m. It's at the auditorium at Fuller Hospital, and it's open to anyone who is 13 or older. Youth under the age of 18 are asked to be accompanied by an adult. They'll have pizza and salad and desserts available. But what they want to be able to do is provide anyone who comes with stories of hope and healing, as well as resources and an opportunity for discussion, so that our area residents and our community can get involved in suicide prevention efforts. So we will continue this conversation, and it is a very important one.
Mr. Geddes?
Thank you, Ms. Regan. I know this is something that you've been working on for a number of months. So to continue the efforts and to be bringing in so many community partners. I know there are a lot of families in the district that are appreciative of what's to come. And I look forward to seeing what else comes down the road. So thank you.
By way of update on the FY19 budget, just wanted to let you all know that we are on track, certainly realizing the savings that we set out to secure, and monitoring our spending, and we're hopeful that we're going to land in a place that is, if nothing else, a little bit better than we were fearing in December, but not in a place yet where we can say that we won't have some level of problem.
Mr. Geddes?
Sorry, I have a lot to say tonight, apparently. In your report on Friday, you mentioned that that last week's snowstorm wiped out our snow removal budget. I know that as we were going through the year, we were hopeful that the lack of snow would give us some budget flexibility. Was that after taking money out of snow removal budget, or was that everything we had for the year?
Mr. Furtado?
He's nodding.
We didn't remove any money from the snow removal budget since the winter wasn't over.
Okay.
So we were hoping to realize some surplus there, but that's not going to happen.
Okay.
But it's important to note that that was never a source of the savings that we had identified.
Right. I didn't know if it was kind of an optimistic hope, but
yep.
So just want that clarification.
But we remain hopeful that things are getting better, not worse. Well, they're not hopeful, but they are getting better, not worse. But we're hopeful that we're going to land in a pretty decent place.
Thank you.
In terms of FY20 budget development, just to review the process, Mr. Furtado will be presenting the administration's proposal on April 3rd. That's a Wednesday at the subcommittee meeting, and then we'll be doing a presentation to the full committee on Monday the 8th. Then we have a hearing after April break. And then you'd be finalizing the budget in one of our meetings in May. As part of those proposals, we've already talked about a level service number. We'll have a slightly adjusted level service number because the last time we looked at it back in December, we're doing our best to guess at that point. Things become more clear as the year progresses, so we'll have a slightly more accurate estimate on that number. And then we also have that $10 million plus number that represents our assessment of what we need to deliver on our educational responsibilities to the students of Attleboro. So that's another number that's always out there, which obviously isn't something that we're going to be able to address all at once, but I think it's always important to include that in the presentation. And then we also will be presenting a list of prioritized urgent needs, things that are really pressing for FY20 for our discussion on the FY20 budget.
So with the urgent needs, are those urgent needs that the district needs to address that would not be addressed in the level service budget?
Yeah, so these are above the level service budget that without addressing, we're going to have problems maintaining the educational experience that we're providing for our students.
So you could be prepared to present 3 numbers, essentially, then you present a budget based on the urgent needs as well?
Yeah, so I mean, if you put all the urgent needs together, that would produce a number.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be helpful to see that number, as well as obviously level service and what we really need, the educational needs budget of 10 plus. Mr. Menchie?
I just said that was done, that was an exercise that was also done last year, correct?
Which,
essentially the 3
Yes.
numbers, the level services budget, the budget of level service plus, I guess what I would call immediate need, and then the larger number based upon your estimates of what a fully
Yeah.
funded school budget would look like.
Similar.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry.
Any other questions? And so those budgets will be presented, you said, first on the 3rd?
Yes.
And then at the full committee on the 8th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one thing that I would say is that with the prioritization of those needs, you know, you as a committee will have it'll be clear to you, you know, what's the most urgent, and go from there in terms of making budgetary decisions. I just have 2 events I wanted to mention to everybody. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock here at AHS is Blue Steam. If you were there last year, you know this is an exciting community event. People really enjoy, lots of great things, fun for all ages. I really I would recommend it to anyone who is available to come tomorrow. And then we also talk about Be Heard, our community coalition, with some regularity, and we have a monthly meeting later this week on Thursday. That's at Attleboro High School in the library at 5 o'clock. And so, you know, we often talk about it, but people say, well, how can I get involved? So come to the meeting. It's open to anybody. Finally, in terms of our high school project, we had a meeting with the MSBA on the 27th of February. It was very positive. They're very happy with the 60% drawings that they've been submitted, and the plan as it is developed since they last saw it in the previous module. So it's going well from their perspective, and you know, it's not, you know, it's March next month. We're going to start to see evidence that this is a real thing as they begin the utility work next month. So it's all coming fast.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. The next item on our business agenda is the proposed memorandum of agreement with the Paraprofessional Association. The proposed memorandum of agreement was circulated with the materials. And just to refresh your recollection, this was anticipated in the collective bargaining process with the Paraprofessional Association, as they had requested to add several positions, specifically applied behavioral analysis, certified occupational therapy assistants, speech language pathology assistants, and licensed practical nurses to the bargaining unit. But because of all the kind of different moving parts associated with adding them to the unit, we agreed that we would address this separately once the contract was agreed to. We have thanked the administration and the bargaining units for working with the association, and we have the proposed memorandum of agreement that does add these positions, and specifically the individuals currently in these positions, to the collective bargaining agreement. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Attleboro School Committee and the Attleboro Paraprofessionals Association, dated February 28th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I think I have to mention on record that I need to recuse myself from this vote.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Recused?
Yes, recused.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. And thank you to Ms. Singer for helping pass that through, get that through. Next on the agenda tonight, we have approval of our minutes from our February 25th, 2019 meeting. The minutes were circulated with your packet. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have our consent items tonight. A motion to accept a donation in the amount of $400 from the employees of Sensata to the Attleboro High School Band.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $146.52 from Chipotle to the Attleboro High School track team.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $400 from Balfour to the Attleboro High School class of 2021.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $300 from Balfour to the Attleboro High School gifts donation line.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation of loam from the Coelho Butterfly Garden. Motion to accept a donation of loam for the Coelho Butterfly Garden with a value of $126 from Megan and Scott Domenici and Leo and Laura Costinos.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $1,000 from the Feinstein Foundation to the Thatcher Gifts donation line.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation from the Willett Elementary School PTO of physical education equipment with a total value of $756 as broken down in order number 10000015790.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation from the Willett Elementary School PTO of an Insignia 55-inch Class LED 2060p Smart 4K UHD TV with an HDR Fire TV edition with a value of $329.99 for Willett's Music Classroom.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a day field trip proposal for 40 grade 9 through 12 students to attend the Drama Festival semifinals on Saturday, March 16th, 2019. Time and location to be determined after performance.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the consent agenda tonight. We'll move on to our subcommittee reports, and we will start with infrastructure and facilities. Mr. Geddes?
So an update from our February 27th meeting. We started off with an MSBA update, which was pretty similar to the full committee's update from the February 25th meeting. A few other notes that came up. The bid for road and utility work actually came in below budget, which is good news. Mr. Sawyer already mentioned this, but the MSBA was very impressed by the communication and teamwork that has gone on between Skanska, KBA, Consigli, and the school building committee. We found out the DPW may have found a grant to cover costs associated with the intersection of Rathbun Willard Drive and Thatcher Street, Route 123. We also found out that the necessary removal and temporary replacement of the current smokestack at the high school will be included in the MSBA project, which will save the district about $30,000 to $35,000, which is very helpful. And as of right now, there are tests being done because of the drainage system and where the current building, or where the new building will go, and some of the drainage coming out of the current building. We are trying to determine if the pool may have to go earlier than expected. So those tests are underway now. So we will keep an eye on that. We also had more of a discussion about the performance contract opportunity with related to capital improvements with the city. We have about about $7.5 million in capital improvements that are planned out over the next 5 years. About 2.25 of that would be identified or have been identified as energy efficiency upgrades that can impact our operating budgets. So by entering into a performance contract for these projects with the city, and the city has some projects that they would implement as part of this as well, they could be completed at the end of the day without cost or any bonding and without an impact on capital improvement budget for the city. And as we discussed this, of course, we brought up the roofs at Brennan and Wamsutta. Mr. Furtado informed us that we have put forth a statement of interest with the MSBA to replace both of those roofs and cover all of the damage from the years of leaking. So if that does not get accepted, then this performance contract would give the city much more flexibility in terms of taking out bonding to cover those repairs as soon as possible. As we were talking about the pool, we had a brief discussion about overtime costs. At that point, this was prior to, we've since had 2 snowstorms. But we had, the district has incurred about 700 hours of maintenance staff overtime across the district. Of those 700 hours, 550 have been specific to the high school, and 300 of those have been specific to the pool itself. So like we've said a few times, this building is not going down without a fight. We do have 2 motions to bring forward tonight. First, I will entertain a motion that the school committee declare pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15A, that the following 2 parcels of land and all buildings located on such land are no longer needed by the school committee for school purposes and may be transferred to the care, custody, management, and control of another board or officer of the city for another municipal purpose, and that the school committee so notify Attleboro City Council. The property located at 135 County Street, the old high school, Brennan Middle School, etc., and the property located at 0 Chorus Street, commonly known as the Chorus Street parking lot.
So moved.
Second.
This motion was necessary as the city solicitor determined that our October 15 motion was not properly worded to cover everything associated with it. The Chorus Street lot, which we learned during the subcommittee meeting, is a small parking lot off of 5th Street that is on the opposite side of 5th Street from the building, slightly past Prospect Street. Does anybody have any questions?
It's not a question so much as a comment. I guess I would just say, because we voted on this initially, or attempted to, or did vote on it in October, and thought it had been transferred over to the city, I would just ask the administration to follow up after tonight to make sure that, the proper steps are taken on the city side to get this down to the council and get this taken care of as soon as possible.
Motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We did bring forward a second motion to authorize the school committee chairperson and the administration to contact the city to seek reimbursement for utility and maintenance costs associated with the old high school located at 135 County Street that have been incurred since the October 15 vote, and to have the mayor send communication to the city council to take ownership of both properties as soon as possible.
So moved.
Second.
As Ms. Scales noted at one of our recent meetings, our budget situation can best be described as fragile. The agreement between the schools and the city to turn over these surplus properties as we moved programs out of them has been in place for over a year. We are, as Mr. Withers just mentioned, we're coming up on 5 full months removed from the initial vote to start this process. During the November to February timeframe, the school department has paid about $27,000 in utility costs that were not included in the budget based on the agreement we had with the city. It was a little over 25,000. It was about 25.5, and we had not received all of the bills from National Grid for the month of February yet. So if we are continuing to pay these, that will result in, it's likely to result in over $50,000 across the FY19 budget. And delays on this and other capital improvement costs that we have experienced unexpectedly do continue to stress our already delicate budget situation. We need them to be addressed accordingly to get an accurate picture of our finances going forward. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That concludes my report. Forgive me, I do not have the date for our next meeting. It is April.
It's on the website.
Yeah, it's on the. I believe it's April 26th is ringing a bell for me for some reason. So.
Thank you, Mr. Geddes.
Thank you.
Next, we have Finance, Mr. Larson.
Finance and Budget Subcommittee met on March 6th. We had a number of discussions similar to that of the Infrastructure Committee. We reviewed the fact that we're on pace to spend about $50,000 on a building that we thought we had given away last fall. This forecasted $50,000 is not in our budget, so it's money that we are forecasting at this point to spend that we didn't have to start with, so if we were fragile before, I'm not sure what's after that, so. We also were informed that we are still waiting for the city to certify our carry forward money from last year. So we're still waiting for approximately $160,000 back from the city that we normally would be getting back. And again, that would be money that would help our budget issues. We're currently still about $300,000 over in our special ed tuition, transportation for the out-of-district placements that we have. Reviewing the budget with Mr. Furtado. If everything goes right, we should be able to deal with that along with some help and some of the carry back money. But it's going to be extremely tight, and without those, it's going to get worse. So we'll continue to update the committee as we go forward. We did have two motions to bring forward. The first one is basically to support the new high school being built. So it's a motion that is being brought forward as a recommendation from the subcommittee. And it reads, the motion to approve the following SBC motion in compliance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30, 29MB, the awarding authority, Attleboro High School Building Committee and School Committee as representative of the awarding authority has been determined that the specification for the RACO verbatim remote equipment monitoring system shall be provided as a proprietary specification following a reasonable investigation. As a result of this investigation, it was determined that this item is a city standard communicating system used for all of its lift stations throughout the city. The equipment is required by the city to maintain active monitoring and communication of all their lift stations. We understand, even though that we are voting this product to be proprietary, the specifications will still include an or equal clause. An item is considered equal if it, one, is at least equal in quality, durability, appearance, standard, and design. 2, will perform the intended function at least equally, and 3, conform substantially, even with deviations to the detailed requirements contained in the specifications.
So moved.
Second. So, again, this is a motion that we need to bring forward to keep the process moving. If anyone has any more details, or detailed questions, I will certainly try my best to answer them. But all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The other motion to bring forward, we've been working on the fee for service over the last few meetings, and we are ready to bring it forward now. So the motion is to approve the transportation fee for service rate for the FY 20 as followed. $190 for the first child, $170 for the second child, $140 for the third child. There'll be no charge for any children, basically for the fourth or any more children after that, with a family cap of $500 per year. There will also be a $20 discount for children who are registered before July 31st.
So moved. Second.
So we've been discussing this over the last couple of months at great detail. Anytime you touch a fee that impacts families, obviously there's a lot to be considered. I appreciate everybody's input and with what we're bringing forward here. If people choose to register after August 1st, it will represent approximately a $25 increase. If people can register their children before the 31st of July, it's approximately a $5 increase. This is the first time, I believe, we decided in 4 or 5 years that we've made an increase to these fees. And we just felt that it was appropriate at this time with the increased expense cost to have to take a look at it. Are there any other questions? Diane?
Just to clarify, it was the deduction is $20 per student.
I'm sorry, per student.
Yep.
I'm not sure what I said, but
Thank you.
$20 per student, yes. Mr. Cass.
I know when we went to a fee for service for transportation, it was not wildly popular. but in looking at some of the other fee-for-service costs in other communities in the area, I think this is a palatable increase. And I like the idea of rewarding folks for registering early as opposed to penalizing folks for registering late. Hopefully this reduces the exceptional number of late summer, late August attempts at getting folks on buses where there are limited seats. So if we can help out the transportation staff by doing this, that's great.
Yeah, every summer there's a battle, because there are parents who show up 3 days before school who want their children on a bus, and there's parents 5 days before school who want to know why the routes aren't in the paper.
Right.
And each of those sets of parents have an impact on each other, and that's what we're trying to avoid in this.
In some
Ms.
ways,
Gill.
those are unavoidable, but
And I just wanted to say thank you to the business office and the transportation department, because by the data presented to us, it's evident that they are getting to the free and reduced lunch people, making sure that they're getting supports that they need to get transportation covered. And if anybody has any needs, to please contact either one of them if you feel you need support in getting it.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Next, we have open forum. Is there anyone who would like to address the school committee at open forum? I don't see anyone, so I will close open forum. And the Attleboro School Committee will now convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A, 2, and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with union and non-union personnel, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee, the committee will not return to open meeting. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Mrs. Scales?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Domenici?
Yes.
All right.
Especially
Yes, we
after
do.
lunch,
Yeah.
to keep the participants engaged.
That is how it works.
Warmer